Downwind is more of a probability pseudoscience. Downwind's about feel. Downwind's about giving yourself a better opportunity, but opening your stuff up anyway. So it's always hard to talk downwind because everyone has little experiences and there's some general concepts that usually work. And I say usually. Whereas, yeah, it's about time in the water with downwind. It's about being out there in the boat there, getting to a destination. When it comes to technique, it's pretty much an exact science. There's a whole bunch of science that go with it. There's still elements of everyone believes in the boat to have that is ability to make things work. You can't sort of distill it down to what it is. We all know that one person who sits there, they just get it. Their plate seems to get the water, their boat just seems to jump forward. And we're all humans. We all got the same muscles. We all got the same body. It's how we utilize our body to its most efficient and add it to the complexity of our open chain sport that we've chosen in paddling. So we don't have a bike gear, even a rollick is sort of there's elements that you get to take, but it's in a rollick. It's not a heap of. I don't want to speak out of turn and paraphrase, but it's roughly you move it backwards and it's stuck in the rollick, and there's things you can do to get better catch and stuff, but it's nowhere near as complex as something like ski paddling, where we have a totally open chain where we put our force. It's asymmetric, so we're putting it on one side, not the other. So there's complexities around how we balance both sides and what each side of our body's doing. And combined with that, it's counterintuitive. What we would think, like the idea of you pull something back and forward, was what makes sense. In paddling and the technique, it actually doesn't work like that, which is why a lot of people get it wrong, and a lot of people are coached wrong, and it actually takes a little bit of thought to understand. And I give you the science behind it. I might get a bit technical. You don't have to get into the technical if you don't like it. I'll give you the validation in terms of why I'm doing it. So I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind a little bit. I hope it blows your mind. That's when you have these epiphanies where you can sort of take that next step. And once I've given you the reasons of what you have to do, I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to show you video of the best in the world. There's a lot of people who I've seen actually coach one way and actually paddle another way. So it's so counterintuitive and so out of the box. I'm hoping you've all heard it all before. You may not have, but the idea around what technique is and what we're trying to do is often misunderstood and taught wrong and executed wrong. So what we're trying to do basically is marry the grip on the water and our paddle with our biomechanics of our body. And biomechanics is an analogy to get the biomechanics of the body. A really good one is you go into the gym. Most exercises have a pretty similar perceived exertion. So how much does it hurt? You go to the gym and do a deadlift, and you put down a deadlift, you're going over 100 kilos relatively simply. It's not that hard to put 100 kilos on there without too much strain. If you go into a shoulder press, you're struggling to break 10 kilos. But the same, relatively similar perceived exertion. You've got to do something like do a shoulder press, your arms are hurting, you got stability muscles, and it actually takes a lot out of your body. Same as a deadlift takes a lot out of your body, but we're looking almost magnitude difference in the amount of weight our body's moving. And the reason why that is our body is really efficient using our legs and in that plane, and it's really inefficient in this plane. We've got our shoulder in a very not a strong position, so all of our stabilizer muscles, our stabilizer joints aren't in a good position, and we have to overcompensate to make that weight move. And that's the concept I want to get across to you today in technique. We want to be doing short, hard deadlifts over shoulder presses. And it's not perceived exertion, it's not equal speed. We need to break away from that. Oh, I'm doing work, or I'm hurting myself, so I'm going faster. Paddling it's not the person who hurts the most who wins the race. It's the person who puts the most force into the water and puts it in the right way to move them forward. And that concept is difficult for a lot of people. They want to pull as long as they can in the water. They want to have this feeling of, oh, I'm really hurting. I've put that perceived exertion in, and they think that's going to relate and end up in speed, but it doesn't. You actually need to break away from that idea and come back to what's going to allow my body to work strongest. And it sort of works in parallel, but how's my blade going to be the most efficient in the water and grip the most? So the blade analogy is sort of like running on ice versus running on a track. You're still running, but one, you've got a lot of grip, you've got certainty, and you know where it's going to go. On ice, you've got a bit of uncertainty, you could slip, you can't put a lot of force in. So you're still at max speed, but your max speed will be a lot lower than what it is on a track with spikes. So we want to use a blade as efficiently with as much grip as possible, and we want to use our body with as much strength and biomechanical efficiency, so using it in the best way possible. So they're the two things we're going to try to marry today with my technique speech and why I see technique. And That way, if you can come back to those two concepts, you can make this a multi-month year journey in your own time. If you come back to that, am I using my body most efficiently? Am I using the blade most efficiently? And you continue on for however you want to go in those two concepts, rather than, oh, you got to put weight on your work. Oh, your hand has to be here. These things, they're little cues along the way, but the core of what we're trying to do is use our body better and use our paddle better. That's probably the true cause. And I'll go into how you use your body better and how you use your paddle better. I'm going to start first with the paddle. Um, and this is probably where most people have most of their trouble and where we have, I suppose, disagreements with probably how you've been coached before and what it's trying to achieve. So a paddle, that's a wing. Obviously, you probably noticed that. Rowing, they have a little bit of curve to their paddles, but there's not a propeller shape in the wing. Would you agree, Drew? Yeah. Before I speak out of turn. So yeah, yeah. We have a propeller blade. So if we think of propellers in industry, think of a propeller on a plane. It goes around a circle and screws through the air and moves forward. Nothing in that propeller moves backwards. Same propeller on a boat. It screws through the air. It's moving sideways and propelling the boat, propelling the plane forward. So that concept of moving sideways and pushing forward is what we need to understand how our paddle works. Our paddle it isn't meant to be pulled back. And it's designed this way on purpose. We used to have flat blades, these big bastard people, and they sat there and they went like this in their boat, used all their arm, pulled the paddle directly back, and their boat went forward, but the paddle went back. And they figured out that was an inefficient way of doing it, and they designed the propeller paddle to mimic and match the human body's biomechanical efficiencies and the way the body works more efficiently. But the root cause of most people's problems that I see is they're pulling the blade the wrong way through the water. A blade is designed to go in the water and move relative to you, diagonal, but in the water, it just does that. It just goes sideways. And that gives you the platform to lever yourself past it. But the blade doesn't actually pull back. It doesn't slide in the water. It should go in the water, hold its water, slide sideways as you go forward. Same propeller on a plane. It screws. If you just took one element of the propeller, it would go across and it would move forward and pull the person forward, the plane forward. The same with our paddles. They go in the water and it moves sideways in the water and you move past it. So it's your lever point. Similar pole vault. It comes in, puts the pole vault in, and they come up and they pull themselves past it. We've got the same concept with that blade. The blade doesn't pull towards us. We don't pull the blade in like that. We sit the blade down and do that, and the blade moves out relative to you. That would just be in a diagonal.
So you're pulling yourself past the blade with a bit of slippage in the blade.
It is a slippage element. It slides out to the side, but as it slides out, it's finding you water. And the reason why that works, if we look at our rudder on our boat, our rudder sits like this, and we turn it, and the rudder then turns sideways, doesn't it? So a rudder lifts and moves this way to move it and turn our boat. But the water's moving across, it's going forward, you go like this, and the rudder goes out to the side. Creates lift to move it sideways. If we do that with a blade, and put a blade in the water and goes this way, and you do it right, the lift actually locks the blade in and stops it slipping and pulls you forward to an extent. And that's the concept of if it slides out, what you're doing is producing lift from your blade and it'll pull you forward. If you pull your blade straight back, you get vortices over both sides and it will stall and it will do this sort of jagged. And a lot of people overcompensate for they lock the blade in, hold it in, and pull it straight back. Because that's what they've been coached. They've been coached J-stroke, pull your blade back and go forward. And what it does is basically efficiently creates vortices on both sides of the blade, which are basically twirling forward or turbulent energy of the turbulent forward comes from you and not from pulling forward. It comes from particularly the blade. So your blade won't be stable in the water and you're putting extra energy into the right hand. Whereas when you slide out, the blade should read the logo the whole way around. And as it slides out, it's not only slide through the water easily, it's trying to keep the blade in the water, not let it slip. And that'll be when you see people go forward. That's when you see those people in good kayaks do it well. They paddle and the boat goes shoop. And it takes off. Their blade is just holding the water, if not lifting, and they've got this huge platform to work from, and they can create a whole bunch of lift. And what we see from that as well, one with the ability to do that, is if you pull it straight close to the boat, it's really hard to put pressure onto the water this way if you want to pull it straight back. You can slide it sideways and leave it past it when it's like this. So what people shoot the top hand to get the blade vertical if they pull it back. So two things happen there. We shoot the top hand you've already lost half your stroke. Instead of going in there, you're going in here, and you sort of in a weak position, your blade vertical instantly loses its verticity. So you got this, and they have this really small strokes that's sort of in this little zone like this. That's the only time they put power in. And the perceived exertion is still high. Their still heart rate's up. Their arms are blown up. Their shoulders are sore. But all their work is in their arms, and their legs are basically dead still in the boat. There's no rotation, and they're going along like this because they're trying to pull the blade straight back. The only way you can get force on that there is by sliding it and levering past it sideways. So the idea of leaving sliding it sideways locks the blade in and just allows us to get a much better catch.
So a propeller, not a scoop.
100%, not a scoop, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be doing this and shooting the top hand. You want to be sliding out in that same screw of a propeller or screw of a propeller, yeah, of a boat or a plane.
Yeah.
And that's what's giving you your leverage to then lever yourself past it. And the blade just goes in the water and slides sideways relative to the water, relative to you. It's a direct diagonal, and it's really wide. It's wider than you think. And I've got some video when we do the video work. I can overlay you onto the best in the world, and you'll be amazed at how wide they're moving that paddle out to the side, because they're starting from the very start to move it sideways. Most people think I pull it back to start with and then slide it out, and there's a J stroke is what they're taught, because you intuitively I pull it back, go forward, and then you slide it out. But what they basically do is they stall, they force the blade close to the boat, and to pull it back often. So our arms work really well in this plane, and our rotation works in this plane, if you understand. So any way you pull it close to the boat, rotation doesn't really help you that much, doesn't get a lot. So they have to use their arms if they're pulling it close to the boat, and then they rotate it out if they're doing a J stroke. So you're missing the most powerful bit of our stroke. We're so strong. If you go on the weights and put it, that bit there, you're so strong at. And then once you get past here, you can't, if you have max there, you can't get anywhere past that. You don't have, our body's not made to get it out there. And we become really weak. So basically, the catch to our knee is where all our strength goes into the boat, into the water. So that's where we get all of our boat speed. And then from our knee to our hip, we're just getting the blade out of the water. Once you're at your knee, you can't just pop it out. It just doesn't work like that. You need to be able to get it out. But all of our force, again, when we go in the gym, it's all this stuff here is where all our strength is. And we do that between this little bit, and then we're just out of the water. So it's shortening the stroke up effectively. Most people paddle too long thinking they're putting extra work in. Again, break away from the idea of perceived exertion equals power and speed. Our strength comes from the catch. Put that power in, and then we exit, and it usually means we're exiting about our hips, especially in the surf ski. Kayaks can pull a little bit longer. It's a lighter craft. They're going a little bit faster. They've got longer paddles. They do put a little bit past the hip, but for surf skis and ocean races, we want to be out of that hip. It's a powerful burst onto the next run type stroke. So we want to keep that shorter if possible, focusing on the catch. You see Corey Hill, he's like reaching out like this. His catch is out past his feet. And that's just correlating in a lot of strength and the ability to pull over runs and put the power down when he wants to. So,
and that key of that is because the further out you are, like a crowbar, you're generating a lot of force at your core.
Yeah.
You're going to be very strong core-wise to be able to get that reach. And if you haven't got that core, you're going to type of plug.
You can,
and as an amateur, you're just going to try and shorten the lever.
And there's a balance. Balance is playing. If you're on balance, reaching out like that and locking like that, that's quite a difficult exercise. Where doing this is actually relatively easy. You just got your arms moving. There's no legs. There's no core. All of our work happens down through here. But if you're, like I said, unbalanced, you just can't activate all that. And often you've got to go above and beyond reaching out to then get in a powerful position. So if you can't put the water and put power on like that, but if you don't reach out to here, by the time you're in, if you sort of go to here, by the time you're in, you've lost half your stroke. So you sort of overreach, get it in, and then you're in a powerful position. But if you start in your power position when you're at the maximum reach, you're going to lose about half of the water.
Clint was taught in the early 90s the J stroke.
Yeah.
Where can you understand where his coaches have got that from? And he says, no, not that. Whereas Ivan Lawler is wide as wide. That's one of his things. But where would have Clint, where is the thinking coming from?
So the pedal blade only came in the 80s. So a lot of coaches around that time would have gone from a dead straight back, because the flat paddles were in close to the boat arm exercise. And then they've transitioned across to a propeller, which did get lift on the backside. And they're still thinking intuitively, it makes sense if I pull it back and forward. It doesn't have a lot of ideas behind the side-on movement is going to be better, because it doesn't make actual intuitive sense. And that you ask them what the blade does in the water, they probably don't even realize it sits in and moves out like that. So there's a concept there of if you can lock it in and slide it sideways, that's going to create lift by moving sideways. If it's not moving sideways, it doesn't create lift. If you go on your rudder and turn your rudder to maximum turn, you go forward, it almost won't even turn you. It turns you a little bit, slows you down a lot, but there's more drag and less turn. The maximum turn we have on our rudders is about 10 degrees. So that's the same thing as you're moving out. By pulling it back this way, you're basically pulling. So if you look at your rudders going out this way, you pull it back this way, you're basically making your rudder, the rudder will normally go like this. You just get no lift from it. So you're still going to be a flat plane, it's still going to give you grip, but all the vortices is going to come over both sides. So you know the bridges when the wind goes and there's that both sides and it starts jumping around. Same thing happens to your blade. You pull it through the water straight back, it does this. Where it slides out, gives you a stable platform that your body knows is consistent, combined with the fact it's just creating lift and gripping the water more. So you can use much smaller blades. If you use too big of blades, most people will pull them close to the boat, stalls it, and laterally get through easier. You can use, I use 680s, these are 700s. I just started using them this week for a surf, get a little bit more grip, but like that's a woman's blade or a kid's blade, a 680. I used for the doctor this year, I was using a 680 blade, but because creating lift by moving out to the side, it makes the blade bigger effectively. Like if you use a massive blade poorly, you can pull it through the water, where if you use a small blade more efficiently because it's lifting, it's going to get you more lift and grip, but it's also going to allow the movement of the body to happen. Like we are so strong in that plane, it's all legs and body. In this plane, there's not a lot of you can get in from your arms, well, that aren't your arms. Your arms stay close to the boat because they move in like that. With rotation, you don't really get a lot compared to the rotation you can get moving out to the side. So I can show you a video of all the top people and they're all moving. There's always going to be exceptions and people can make anything work. And again, everyone is a combination of a whole bunch of factors, but usually, especially in the sprinters as well, you'll see them all moving sideways. They need the extra lift. When you're fit, 1,000 get away with a little bit of inefficiencies, but like sprinters need to have every bit of grip in the water and they're moving out to the side and it's getting all that energy from their hips, from their legs.
You were pedaling just doing that action.
Yep. What do you mean, sorry? Yeah. You'd have to angle it if you want to slide sideways. Is that what you sort of saying?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, the balance between sliding it back on the floor
Yeah.
and the speed of the blade.
Both moving forward relative to if you put it in the water, it goes straight out. Both moving forward.
What you're saying is you're saying if you move the paddle sideways, you can do it with an angle.
Speed that going in the water.
Yeah. We want to leave up. Obviously, it's sand if you also put it in, and you wouldn't have to move it because it's whole sand. Because the water moves around there. By sliding it sideways, you make the water slip less. But what you're saying is you could actually pull yourself by pulling the paddle sideways, but you wouldn't have it perpendicular. You'd have to have it on an angle to do that. That's to want to slide forward. We're just trying to stop sliding back. But yeah, if you put that paddle on an angle and put it out like that, hold that amount of water. It's always going to slip a little bit. We're in water, but you can minimize that slip by moving out to the side. And then once you're up to speed, that's when the blades will go in cleaner and not have this massive turbulent bubble behind it of sort of aeration, cavitation, or whatever you want to call it, behind the blade. So when you go in the water, so I don't go like this and pull the water, it's not actually what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do, you go into the water and you put it in, go like that, is a much better representation of what you're trying to achieve. And again, getting that water flow over the back, exactly what Chuck's saying, without having that, when we go stand in the water and do this, it's actually a bad exercise. It's not teaching us what we want to do in the water. If you want to go in the water and just do this and slide it right, or like better do that, you should be able to feel this point where the blade just slides out, but you feel the blade grip, like it locks. And that feeling of locking is what we're trying to achieve, that feeling of jelly. That's what you, if you get your balance right in terms of how much pressure you put on it, how much top hand pressure you have in the water, that's when you have a grip and it just has this jelly feel where like everything locks in. And what you're feeling there is the lift being created by the water moving across the blade and not being stagnant on the blade is what you're trying to achieve.
Often I find relative to the others, I go better into the wind.
Yep.
So, why is that?
Like into the wind will slow your rating down, so it'll allow you to fire your movement pattern in an easier method. So if you're going like and you're just doing it quick, it just takes, it's like when you pitch a baseball, the harder you pitch, the more inactive you get. When it's slower, you have a better combination, a better link through. So when you're locking into the wind, it just slows everything down. So you can go legs, abs, rotation, and put it all through in action. And often, like your resistor ball will be the same. Resistor ball is good to train your movement patterns. It slows it down and allows you to get your firing pattern. Everyone has their own firing pattern. That's what we say when you first get on. That's the easiest firing pattern to have. Your arms just move. All this can just worry about balance, and you get to like lock in like this. And then as you get better, you go to this more flowy, and everything in the body is all moving in unison. And the Corey Hills and the Olympic gold medal champions, everything is going in perfect unison. They're the same body, roughly, the same muscles. It's just that firing pattern is just elite. And moving perfectly, and slowing the into the wind or with just falls. It's a really good way of getting better because it slows you down and allows you to work on things and you put into practice at higher speeds. A lot of the time, racing, a really good method in racing is if you want to race 1,000, you can race 100 metres and get the same race pace you would 1,000 that you can maintain in a race. It's hard to race 1,000 train 1,000 if you want to race it at the same intensity. It's always the intensity you find on the race day. So to find that rhythm, find that firing pattern can help with race sport. People say you can race a build that's 20k or 25k. Sometimes if you do 25k or even longer every training, you're never actually racing at the same pace. You race the energy up that you put on race day. So it's break that up, reduce that training blocks, stuff like that.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
We're not going to get into the paddle angle debate.
We can talk paddle angle. No, it's a great debate. It's actually interesting. I can show you a really good way. I have a fixed paddle, so I can't show.
What do you fix it at?
Well, it's totally personal.
Oh,
He's not telling you.
so
No, it's personal.
I fix it at 45. I'm happy to show you that. So paddle angle. So paddle angle is pretty straightforward in your right hand. Most people are always going to hold it like that. That's your perpendicular, not open, not closed. So perpendicular in the water, that's pretty much non-debatable. So what we do then is this, whose paddle is this?
mine.
Did you ever move it?
Yeah.
You don't mind
It's
if I'm
just-
twisting
no,
a little bit?
No, but it's not easy to twist. But you can try that.
I'm just hearing no.
That's why I
No,
That's why I
no,
keep it
no.
fixed because it's actually.
Do you want to get someone else?
No, go for it.
You don't mind if I twist it?
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
I maintain
It's just
my-
more the fact that you might sit there and go, oh, "Fuck, this is hard to twist." But I'm happy to twist it.
Well, it's
I don't
good
reckon
if it
Reece
doesn't
will have trouble
twist
with
too
it
hard.
somehow.
It's all good. It's probably better that it doesn't just like fall apart. So you got that. That's probably non-negotiable. What we then do is put our hand in our right position here, and I can make that angle work. I can make that angle work. There's no difference. All it does is just put this wrist in bad positions and good positions. So everyone has their own perfect place here, and you can very easily find it by putting your top hand there. Usually what happens if you're taller, the angle increases, and if it's lower, the angle decreases. So when we're out low hands, that's perpendicular. If I went up to really high hands, it needs to be more higher angle. So your angle is all personal, depending on how high it is, where you hold your hands, what your body shape's like, your elbows up here versus down here. It's all going to change your angle.
So it's not an ideal wrist position in terms of you can be
Well,
slightly cut. You see
position
some
is
people
in a
push
powerful position.
their hand through like
That's going
this.
to cause injury. And it won't cause injury straight away. People can paddle their whole life and not have injury.
Yeah.
But if you're prone to carpal tunnel when you're paddling along like this,
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest you're probably going to have carpal tunnel. like,
So it's the strongest position. The wrist needs to be in a strong lock.
yeah. Go and do weights and see how you go. Look at your wrist when you're doing heavy weights, and you want to replicate that. It's pretty no-brainer.
Yeah.
And again, like I say, you can make any angle work. It's not gonna. It's probably just gonna put you at a higher probability of injury. It's not gonna say you can't paddle with that. If you want to paddle at 90, go for your life. If you want to paddle at 0, go for your life. I don't really care. I just suggest looking at your body, just making sure. The trouble is some people do this and they're like, this is where I hold my hand. You're like, you really hold your elbow out there. So just make sure when you do this exercise, you do hold it in your right position. Some people are really bad at finding their position up here. So don't go, oh, Reece told me this is my angle, because see, it looks good here, and you're like, so just be careful. But most people have an angle, like I said, any angle can work. The angle you want will reduce your amount of injury and probably increase your power. If this is a better angle, you're gonna have less fatigue in your forearm, you're gonna be better, so lock it off. That's your angle. And yeah, that's how it goes. So yeah, 45 is my angle. So it works for me. It works for my power position. Again, it's not the end of the world if you have it at 90 or 0. Go for your life.
Where's your top hand at the start of the stroke?
So top of my stroke, more the elbow stays there. It's not too close to my face. Most people play with their hands, get their elbow in really close because they want to do this. Whereas when you're out, your body, my top hand doesn't actually bend, it just comes across with the body. So it looks like I do this, but it just does this. So it starts just above the head, in the water, so there's that top hand jams the paddle in, eye height, and then comes around, finishes about shoulder height, and I sort of cut my forearm in half with this top hand. So it goes like that. And again, look, watching, there's no elbow bend, there's no push. It's pushing down the blade, locking the blade in, and then around with the body.
So that front hand you're not coming out with it?
No push with front hand. Like, it looks like I do, but it's that. So
Yeah, but it's your elbow's cocked.
The elbow, yeah, is a bit of cock. And
I think some people think you do because you finish the stroke and then when you move to the setup, that goes out and people think that's finishing the stroke. But that's actually sort of setting up for the new stroke, isn't it?
there's a little bit of movement in the arms in the spearing, and that's where you're using most of your arms. You can paddle along without bending your arms, but you sort of always bend your arms. And once you're in, it's all here. So this locks in once you're in the water, and you leave yourself past it. And this hand comes across, but it's not coming across with a push. It's just coming across like that.
Yeah, so this top hand position again. So you don't want to drop your elbow or keep your hand high because that's going to bring it closer. You really want to be, you would say, right angles is a good sort of starting point.
Yeah, pretty much. So you want elbow in a powerful position, ankle body, and then having it out, it's not too close, and it's not like active. You just want to have it in a sort of a power position here. Yeah. And the main thing is that top hand pushes down the blades. As soon as the pole vaulter comes in, locks the pole for the bolt in and goes around. Yeah. The top hand is locking the blade in, and then your bottom hand is like rotating around it. So the 2 points sort of lock off your top hand and your legs, they lock in, and then everything else sort of, although your top hand's moving, it's not actually moving relative to your body, and everything just levers past it. And that's the idea of when that's levering past it, it's moving out to the side. And then that whip, as it comes out wide, and the blade finds its grip, finds the water, and you're in a powerful position as you like lever yourself past that blade. So yeah, the concept is when you're pulling your blade out the side, you sort of have to use your body. Like you can't use your arms out there. And that's why most people get stuck using their arms their whole life. It's like if I told you to trigger your nose every time you do a stroke. Like, oh, Reece said I better do it. And you do it for a little bit, and then 3 weeks later I'll probably come back to you. You probably forget to trigger your nose because it's taking mental energy, but it's not helping you push yourself forward. And that's usually the concept I see when people get stuck using their arms or not using their rotation, not using their legs. Paddling too close to the boat, so when they do rotate, it doesn't actually really help you. There's not a lot of help you get. If you're paddling close to the boat, you won't get a lot of help from that, so you'll stop doing it. Whereas when you start sliding the blade out to the side, you just can't use your arms out there, so you naturally go to a rotation, you naturally start using your legs, because that's where you're getting your power from. So the blade's finding you water and gripping, but you're also getting reward from your legs, reward from your rotation. So all of a sudden, you are setting yourself up with rotation and you're using that rotation because there's benefits from it versus a situation where you're close to the boat, you rotate a little bit, it doesn't really bother, my arm's doing all the work. I'm applying hyperperceived exertion. This is my max speed I can get to. I hit my limit of lactate, I let my arms are fatigued, I can't go any further. Where in reality, you've fatigued your arms, your lactate max in your arms, and nothing down here is doing any work. So you don't have the ability to go any harder and you are at your max. But you're not using your body to its extent. You're doing shoulder presses, going up, down 8 kilos for 10 reps. I'm done. I'm tired. I've got nothing left. But old mate's over there doing deadlifts and he's lifted 150 kilos 7 times and he's like double the amount of energy in the water than you. And you, how does he always be over there and I'm here? I'm just as tired as he is. He's got the same body as me. Usually it's down to the pathways and what muscles you're utilising and move that boat forward.
In the boat, the legs, what's the optimum angle? Like, yesterday I was getting little shots in the knee.
It's like rotation as I'm rotating that shoulder, and then you've got your core through here. My arms aren't moving or my shoulders aren't moving, but all this movement here is being generated through this core, and this is where the power's at paddling. This is what you're trying to get to, and it usually starts with the root cause of your paddle angle. If your paddle's coming through here, you just can't generate that power. You need to be moving sideways to be able to get this activated. If you get that lock on, it locks in, so you're in, this hand's pushing down, so in the water, and then we just come out around like that, and you've got this whip, the blades grip the water, and we'll come up to this, and then come up for our next stroke, I like to get this bit of my paddle over the bung, so there's like this, so bung on the top of my boat. I get the paddle on the other side of it, and then you start from there and you go down into the water and then out to the side. And what we see sometimes, if people start here, they have to go down to the water and then across in two actions, or if they go down to the water, they often sort of start paddling before the blades in the water because they're anticipating the water, and they miss it. And by the time they're in, they're back here. Versus if you're out here and you go across, you can see that's where my feet are. If you're going across the water, you're more likely going to get a better catch. You're going to be in the water in a powerful position out here, and your blade's going to be on this angle. With the hands, normally you have to have vertical, so you have to, you can't put your hand up this far, so most people put their hands, get their hands in and they get the paddle vertical here, and then put the paddle back up. Get stuck in here, and once you're here, you've got nowhere to go. You have to get the paddle out, you've got to lift your arm, you've got to get stuck in here or paddle too far back. When you've got this nice movement that goes out the side, the paddle's already out of the water. The paddle is there and goes pop out of the water. If we come back to here, the paddle, like the paddle's obviously this paddle length in the sand. There's no way to get it out. So if people paddle too long, they lift the trap, they bend the arm, or they sort of like just try to jimmy the paddle out, and it just doesn't go well. The boat gets lifted, the boat gets moved. You're stressing your arm, you're stressing your shoulder, you have injuries, and it's just not a fast way to paddle there. The idea is we sort of get it in power phase from feet to the knees, exit from knees to hips, and then we're out of the water. We're ready to go for the next stroke. And that idea of getting it out from knee to hip is reducing the perceived exertion, but the power happens out here. So that's where a lot of people, when I coach them and change their technique from a army exercise that's stuck all the way through to a slide out to the side, they're like, oh, it feels too easy, I'm not doing any work. I'm like, well, you're doing the work from here to here with rotation, and then you're exiting, but that's where all the work happens. So I can subtract this bit of your back end of your stroke. It feels like you're doing less, but you've got the same speed, and then you can work on it. It's going to take a while to get the feel, get the movement patterns. So it's going to be one step back with two falls, especially with balance and everything else. But the idea is we're going to have a much bigger peak because we're using our bigger muscles. The idea of moving the blade this way versus this way is really daunting. It's challenging. It's going to be, and the balance you lose, because a lot of people use this out the back here as balance. That's their balance point. Where if you're out your hip and you're coming almost like it's a whip out because it's so light because you're just trying to get it out of the water, it doesn't give you a lot of balance. But what it does, it increases your balance of the catch. Instead of going down to the water, catching it, pulling it back and getting stuck, you're just like sliding in. It's like an axe chop. So you start up here, you go in, and it's just like bang, and you get like the idea of
You're spearing into the water, you're not really
There's a spear action because it's like you're out and then you're back. So it's sort of, there is an element. It's not like this type. So you're starting out there and you're sort of in, levering, sort of locking the blade in and paddling past it. That's a lot of the time. A lot of the demonstrations are around paddle comes to me, but the visualization has to be paddle locking and you paddle past it. When I do this exercise at home, I normally have a kayak sled where the sled slides past the blade. This blade here would be on a string, and you'd slide yourself past the blade is a really good way to visualize technique, because this idea of the paddle comes back is not what happens out in the water, and it can break up what we're trying to achieve from a paddling perspective. So,
Can I just ask, with your setup, so obviously the paddle comes out, and that blade gets there before you finish getting your arm up, doesn't it? So that sort of looks like it's staying still. Looks like it's pausing while you're getting your arm up.
well, the top hand sort of does stay still, because this sort of comes up to it.
Yep. So how high, so you say that the front of your paddle should be centre of the boat, not crossed over? So
I'm paddling through, it comes out to there, that's where I'm in the water, so there, when I'm looking down at that, and that stays the same. So when I lift that up, see that paddle is on the other side of the bung
like
naturally.
a socket?
Yeah, so it sort of comes through, comes up, and then from there you're down to the water, lock in, leave yourself past it, and then out, and then in, leave yourself past it.
So you want to be like 200 above the deck.
It made me reflect.